Another exciting conversation. I'm really stoked about this one today. I tell you what, I've been following this this woman for quite some time. She has been such a powerful pioneer in this space. And, I guess I can't really say pioneer because this is the natural way. So this is how we used to be all the time. But as far as in modern times, she has been one of the most powerful voices of getting us back to the frugivore way, getting us back to the simplicity of who we truly are and fueling our bodies in the highest and best way possible. So I'm really excited to be joined today by Freelee the Banana Girl, and
Ah,
she's going to be sharing some gnosis with us on the topic of sugar and a whole wide array of things. So thanks for being here, Freelee.
thanks for having me. It's awesome. That's a very sweet intro that you did.
Thanks. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
that. Yeah. So just for there's probably a lot in my audience because we're all very frugivore minded. We're all shifting that direction, all in different stages of our transition. And so I'm sure many are familiar with you, but there might be some that aren't. So if you could just
Mhm.
give a quick introduction and maybe just kind of how your health journey has brought you to this space.
Yeah, for sure. I grew up in Queensland, Australia, and I grew up on a hobby farm actually where we had a banana plantation. So the banana girl grew up on a small banana farm, basically. And I had a fair bit of fruit growing up, but we also had meat and dairy. And I also had some, health challenges at that point. And then I moved to the city. And in the city, it was definitely a challenge for me because I'd come from a more whole food, more natural lifestyle. And I got into eating. Oh,
Sorry.
sorry. And then yeah, so I ran into a lot of health issues when I got to the city when I was about 15, 16. I ended up developing bulimia and anorexia, and there was a lot of issues around that as far as my food was going. I just didn't understand how to eat properly, basically. And I was listening to a whole lot of, I was diet books and magazines telling me that I had to be super skinny to be happy, and this is the way to do it. You got to starve yourself. And I got ill. Yeah, got very ill digestively. I had a lot of digestive issues. And I actually found this yoga teacher back in a long time ago, 2001. I found this yoga teacher who was very inspiring. And I was at a point in my life where my digestion was terrible. I had a lot of health issues like chronic fatigue syndrome. I had hypothyroidism, so low thyroid function.
Mhm.
And I was just at rock bottom. I think I was really at rock bottom. But it actually got even worse than that. So, anyway, this yoga teacher was very inspiring. So, I interrogated her and I asked her all about, what she was doing because she was glowing, she was energetic. She basically had the results that I wanted. So she said, raw food and juicing at the time. So she was right into raw food, she was right into juicing, and she convinced me to get a juicer at the time. And the juicer came with a raw food, like living food recipe book. And it had a lot of good recipes, but it also had raw meat recipes in there, which at the time was just, I think most people in society think that's crazy. And I did at the time as well, even though now it's becoming weirdly popular with the carnivore diet and stuff like that. But um, yeah, so I started juicing and I did start to see some good results, but I didn't understand how to eat enough, right? So, like, I was just having a lot of juice and I wasn't eating a lot of calories in general, a lot of fruit. So I fell off the wagon and I basically forgot about it. And I continued to get more and more ill over the years because I knew there was something in it with the raw food. Like I really just intuitively knew this felt like the right direction. But at the same time, I didn't understand how to do it. I didn't have any guidance. There wasn't raw food forums. At that time, there was, gosh, I don't know. I don't think there was anything in the year 2001 as far as raw food communities goes. I'm sure maybe offline, there was some getting around, but there wasn't a lot of information. So fast forward to when I was a personal trainer, and I was I was really, really struggling with my health at that time. It was just I was seeing a gastroenterologist and he was charging me $215 for a 15-minute consult. and I had a couple of consults with him. I had an endoscopy, and he told me that I had inflammation of the gut, basically, had inflammation of the gut, and that there was a new drug coming out in the US. Actually, it was out in the US and it was coming to Australia, and it was going to help me heal, basically. And I just, gosh, by that point, I'd been through a lot of recreational drugs myself. I was taking, gosh, cocaine and all sorts of like nasty drugs by that point, and I had anorexia and I had this bulimia, and I was a real mess psychologically and physically as well. And I didn't want to take more drugs. By that point, I knew I just wanted to do it the natural way because I had been through so much drug taking, even with seeing Ayurvedic doctors, naturopaths. They all wanted to get me on tinctures and all sorts of pills and potions, and it never helped me. It actually made my symptoms worse. So I got up and I left. I said to him, I don't want any more drugs. And I left. And after that, I actually saw in a natural health magazine because, like, harping back to when I grew up, my mum was always into giving us a lot of fruit because we did grow fruit there as well. We grew the bananas, we grew the passion fruit and watermelons. We had quite a bit of fruit going on. And so I was always instinctively like, fruit is good. Fruit is good. I know that I should be going in this direction. And so I was picking up these natural health magazines, and I did see this girl who was eating a fruit-based diet, and she was very inspiring. Her story was inspiring, and I'm like, yes, that raw food thing. The yoga teacher, she was like onto something, and I think I was on the right path, but why didn't it work out for me? Why did this not work, this raw food thing? And so I gathered a lot more information. I went to libraries and found books on fasting as well, fasting and all sorts of different natural health focuses. But the fruit one really got me the most. So I went down that rabbit hole more, and I eventually found Doug Graham, and I had a consult with Doug, and he actually, yeah, he helped me a lot to stay to, do the path properly because I had found by that point there was, some raw food forums and stuff like that, and those forums, basically David Wolf at that point, David Wolf, Matt Monarch, they had forums, or no, Matt Monarch didn't, but David Wolf definitely had a forum, but it was all about high fat and there's a lot of cacao involved, and I kind of tried that approach and felt terrible. But Doug Graham's approach really helped me a lot and helped me realize that fruit was, yeah, the way forward. And I started to really heal like so many issues after all these years of just being in pain, basically. And yeah, that brings us to yeah, 18 plus years later. Now I'm on a fruit-based diet for that long, and I'm not going back. It's been amazing, and hopefully that makes sense to people. Like it's like a bit of a jumble of my history. But
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. Bits and pieces of that I think we can all relate to because it's something powerful that this health journey really brings us into this. It's like a gauntlet, right? Like when you've got organized society giving you all this nonsense that you have to go through, and you have to be really. That's why the spiritual journey is so tied to this because you have to be willing to take that leap of faith to step away
Hmm.
from the crowd and to say, I'm
Yes,
going to
yes.
bravely, courageously step into the unknown, this place where nobody else, my friends and family, nobody else is going, but I'm tired of feeling sick and tired of feeling
That's it.
shitty.
That was the main thing. I was just so, I was over being sick. I was sick of being sick. And I knew something had to change, or else, like at some points, I was actually suicidal. It was that bad. My digestive health was incredibly bad. So, yeah. And just going through anorexia and bulimia and just really damaging my body. I was tired. I was over it. I wanted to feel and look my best.
Right. Well, and you look great. So it's definitely,
Oh,
that's why
thank you.
it's such a fantastic testimony because you're living proof that this works. You're living proof that this is the way this can work and we can shift so much just by changing a few subtle things, but we have to be dedicated to it and we have to be conscious about what these choices are and the sort of pitfalls that can come up along the way. So
Yes.
so yeah, so a big topic today is going to be around sugar. So I just wanted to generally kind of go over our body's relationship with sucrose, glucose, fructose, which before you go into that, I will say that if anyone wants a phenomenal breakdown with whiteboard and descriptions and everything, make sure to go check out Freele's videos. She does a great job at breaking these things down in a very presentable format. But today we are going to talk a little bit about it. So yeah, I'll pass it over to you.
Ah, thank you. Yeah. Oh, so the question is about sugar. What is it?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
how it works in the
Just,
body?
yeah. What, just generally, which on sugar, and then we can go into different types of sugar, but just what's our
Yeah.
body's relationship with sugar?
Yeah. So every cell, the trillions of cells in your body run on sugar or glucose. And sucrose, which is the white table sugar that everybody's scared of, which is actually translucent, by the way. I think this is the important point to make first up. If you hold the crystal up into the light, you'll see it's actually clear. It's a clear crystal. So you don't have to worry that you're eating some chemically bleached sugar. You know what I mean? Like it's not. So sucrose actually breaks down to glucose and fructose in the body. Okay. And the fructose goes directly to the liver to replenish the liver glycogen stores. Like overnight, you lose quite a bit because when you're sleeping, the brain is still, you're still alive. It still requires energy. It still requires sugar. So you're drawing that from your glycogen stores and especially the liver because the liver helps balance blood sugar. So when you're ingesting that sucrose, the body knows exactly what to do with it because we have an enzyme, a sucrose splitting enzyme called sucrase. Like that's how adapted we are to sucrose or the table sugar. And it's really hard for people to make that leap, like to understand that the sugar that is in fruit, sucrose, and glucose and fructose, the sucrose is actually identical to the white sugar. Chemically identical, it's exactly the same. It's not created by humans. Okay, it's not our creation. We've just isolated and extracted it. So that's something people need to understand firstly, I guess. And and the glucose, so it splits the glucose and the fructose, and the glucose goes into the bloodstream and it feeds every cell in our body. And some of it also goes to the liver. So it's a perfect a perfect fuel for us. It doesn't have the fiber, it doesn't have the micronutrients. I'm not going to pretend it's better than fruit. It's not. I'm always going to promote a fruit-based diet over like a sugar-based diet. You know what I mean? But unfortunately, the quality of fruit is very poor. For most people in this world, they're getting very poor quality fruit. So the sucrose content is much lower than it actually should be. So then we can actually control the nutrition. We can bump up the nutrition by adding sucrose in the form of table sugar, which is really amazing. And I know it's scary. It's scary for people, right? To consider adding white sugar to their fruit meals, but honestly, it is a game changer. And I'm seeing such fantastic results and getting a lot of positive feedback from people who are doing it. So I guess that's the introduction to sugar. It's every cell in our body runs on it. Our brain runs on it. We need it. If we don't have it, where are we going to get the energy from? We're going to start to take it from our own tissue. We're going to start to run on ketones and stuff. And, that's all not good at all.
Right. Yeah, that's a great explanation, and it is so true that that's the fundamental energy source for our body. And so even if we're using other forms of fuel, it's got to break it down into that basic what it's looking for, which the more toil that we put our body through, the more heat and acids it produce, which causes breakdown and damage and aging and all this other sorts of stuff. So the
Hmm.
concept that a lot of people mention that white sugar ages you is a huge misconception,
It's the
and
opposite.
yeah,
It's
and
the
you're living
opposite.
proof.
That is, oh, thank you. Well, I am 45 soon and I'm happy with the results. I'm happy. Like I feel like the skin is very hydrated from the sugar because the sugar actually helps the water get into the cell. So if you don't add sugar to your water, it's actually less effective and you can pee a lot out. Because I genuinely believe that we're meant to have sugar and water together when we ingest it. We're not meant to just have water by itself. Sure, we can drink from creeks and stuff like that, but it's actually can be quite dangerous. Up here, people get leptospirosis, you know, even fruit-based people, it can be a real problem because pigs pee in the water, animals poop in the water. You know what I mean? It's an open water source, which can actually be quite dangerous. And nature creates fruit in the perfect package. It has the water and the sugar inside, also coconut water. It's enclosed, it's safe, right? So I truly believe that when we have water, like we do have to drink water from other sources these days. Like we have a very dehydrating environment as well. We're wearing clothing. Most people living in cities with a lot of pollution. There's a lot of factors that affect hydration, their diet, their cooked diet, caffeine, it's just endless. So if we just add a bit of sugar to that water, it can increase the hydration by, it's about 60%. And they do this in hospitals. It's not like something I've made up myself. It's oral hydration, uh, routine that they use. They do add a little bit of salt, but it's not actually necessary. The salt is not necessary because a lot of us, have more than enough sodium in our diets as well. And it's the sugar that is actually the really hydrating factor.
Yeah, that's so beautifully said. And I would just add on that fruit is such a perfect embodiment of our connection with this divine experience because it's like here is this gift that's perfectly encapsulated. It's got everything that you need. And it's not,
Yes.
you don't have to kill anything to get it. It's actually begging you to take it and to enjoy it. It's designed for us to sustain on it. So it doesn't matter
And
which what yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
no, I was just going to say, and you know
Yeah,
what I mean? Like
vegetarian.
it's
Yeah.
like the perfect food on the planet. Look, like this is like the most beautiful, oh, tasty, amazing, vibrant food on the planet, and it becomes part of your body. It's like perfect. I just wanted to show off my durian. Sorry.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah,
Ow.
so let's get into maybe the history behind. So we've talked a little bit about white table sugar. So let's talk a little bit more about why is this so demonized? Why has this gotten to this place? Maybe the history behind sugar and
Mm,
how we got to this space. And of course,
yep,
there's a
yep.
myriad of reasons, but maybe let's go into that and sort of break down this myth that white table sugar is the death and we got to avoid it at all costs.
Yes, yes. Yeah, yeah. We've come a long way. We definitely have. Initially, actually, white sugar was called white gold. It was referred to as white gold back in like the 1600s by the British because it was so rare and valuable that they named it like it was as valuable as gold. People were after it like crazy because we know why, because we're frugivores and we're sugar miners, and we are after the sucrose. We're after that sucrose because it's so perfect. It has the glucose fructose split, so that fructose helps actually balance the blood sugar. So it actually keeps the blood sugar low because it doesn't elicit like a blood sugar response. It doesn't require any insulin in order to get into the cell. So I'm going a bit off topic there, but what I'm saying is that like that's why it's so valuable to humans and it's so rewarding. We have those sweet taste buds for a reason. So humans have been searching out the sugar for a very long time. It's been eaten, like the white sugar specifically was first made in India and it's been over 3,000 years or something, over 3,000. But sugar in general has been very, very long time. The white sugar, it's called, I think it's called, oh, there's a Sanskrit name for it in the Indian. I can't remember it right now, but it's has, let's just say it has a lot of, it was very popular back in the day. It was reserved for the wealthy, and Christopher Columbus actually brought it to, the modern world. And that's where it became very popular. And they were just kind of like knocking down tobacco and rainforests and everything, to grow sugar because they're like, shit, this is really good. This is really good. The population loves it. And now I feel like it's just so disrespected now. It was so like, there's no love for sugar anymore. And there was so much love before, so much appreciation. Now we just have it so cheap. We can buy as much as we want. And people are just shitting on it. And it's not, I understand why they feel the way they do because of all the marketing. There is so much marketing against sugar, and part of the reason is because in 2000, late 90s, the artificial sweetener movement, companies, they actually did a lot of marketing against sugar because they're like, hey, take our artificial sweetener instead. It's healthier than white sugar. You're not going to get sick having this, and a whole lot of marketing, big marketing push, and white sugar started to go down in consumption. So this is very interesting, and a lot of hate actually, uh, yeah, developed against sugar during that time. Because when my mum was young, she didn't. There was nothing against white sugar. It wasn't, a bad thing. People just ate it, and it was normal, and they were happy and healthy. And in the 1930s, uh, they used to actually eat in America. The stats show that the consumption of sugar in the 1930s was higher than what it is now. So it was much higher, and the rates of obesity and diabetes, it wasn't a thing. Yeah, because a lot of people try and connect the diabetes and obesity with sugar, which is wrong. So, yeah, over the years, artificial sweetener has definitely done a lot of damage, the artificial sweetener companies to white sugar. And it just seems to be like an epidemic of hate, like on social media. Like, and it's not justified. That's the problem. Because I was like, hang on, I've been adding sugar to my diet or to my smoothies, but coconut sugar mainly, and we'll talk about the different types of sugar. But I've been adding it for over 12 years and feeling great and, not I don't I don't feel like I've got any negative, symptoms from it or anything like that. So I wanted to look more into it, and sometimes I would have white sugar too, but I still had that like fear of the white sugar. And then I started to really research it and realize that, hang on, this is crystallized sunshine. This is amazing. This is actually a crystal. This is a pure, pure crystal. This isn't a bad thing. It's not even white. And we've been lied to. That's what I came to.
Yeah, truly. It's and we can kind of shift into this, but it's paired with our shift in diet towards more animal products, more fat-based, the sort of decadent things that really it's the combination that's so disastrous to our health. And so maybe this would be a good opportunity to shift to that of like how the combination of fats and sugar can be what causes the detriment and why that might be blamed on the sugar itself, but it's not the root cause of the issue. It's not the source. So if you want to
Oh,
jump to
yeah.
that.
The, the whole entire population is fatted out. I'm telling you, there's way, way too much fat in the human frugivore diet. It's terrible. Honestly, I recommend 5% of daily calories from fat for optimal results. Throughout my experience over the past 18 plus years on a fruit-based diet, the people keeping their overt fats low, very low, and eating around 5% of daily calories were always the most vibrant, always the most inspiring, most energetic. And just through my research and my own experience over the years, I've definitely come to the 5%. And 10% is what, Doug recommends, around 10% or less. But even that is too much. Even that is too much. And it definitely interferes with the processing of sugar because it traps the sugar in the bloodstream. And also, fat can build up in the cells. You can get this lipotoxicity. And you see it a lot in people who are obese, and not obese as well, but a lot of individuals who are obese, which is quite a large percentage of the population these days, right? It's like a fly over the camera, like throw. And this definitely interrupts the sugar trying to get into the cell because insulin can't actually help the sugar get into the cell. So then we have the sugar building up in the bloodstream, and then there's a problem, right? There's a problem for elevation of your blood glucose. So it's all right to spike. It's all right for your blood sugar to spike. This is what people don't understand. They're like, oh, spiking is terrible, spiking is bad. But spiking is actually how you get the sugar into the cell, how you fuel the cell. It needs to happen. And, there's this glucose goddess trying to tell us that, we should flatten the curve and flattening the curve is not what we should be doing. That's definitely not. The problem comes when the blood sugar stays elevated, for too long, for many hours. That's a problem. But when you have a low fat diet, when you're having this low fat fruit based diet, or even like a low carb, cooked diet, it clears naturally quickly. You go up, you spike, and then you come down. That's just how it is, and that's fine. But when you're having that excess fat, it's going up, and then it's like, you know what I mean? It's like a long elevated curve, which you don't want.
Right.
So yeah, remove the excess fat and sugar can get into the cell easily. No problem. I have my HbA1c blood test up. It's 5.2. I have no problem with, blood sugar management, but I should, right? I should have, but I don't because I don't have a high fat diet. So
Right. Yeah, from a conventional perspective, you should be very diabetic, but
yes.
that's not the case. And if anyone wants to see more of that from a visual perspective, the documentary What the Health goes over this very well of showing how the fats are really the root cause of why people experience diabetes, and how just
Yes, yes.
shifting out of that really brings it back because the blood slows down, everything slows down, and it takes time for the body to process the fats. Our body can run on fats, but it's a suboptimal process.
Oh,
It's not our
it's an
primary.
emergency. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. And I mean, and it's an emergency state. It's you're ill. It's not like you want to stay in that state long at all or
Right.
even go into it.
Right. So if we were journeying across the desert and we needed to bring a
Mm,
limited fuel source, then yeah, maybe we would look to having a bunch of nuts or something like that. But as far as
exactly.
consistent day to day, our body's seeking the sugar. So the more that we starve from that, the more that we're going to cause a whole host of other issues. So
Hmm.
yeah, very well said in
Yes,
there.
that is right.
Yeah. Yeah. So as far as going back to sugar, we mentioned the different types of sugar. So just so we cover
Yeah.
that layer of it, let's break that down. So we've got the fruit, we've got the white table sugar, you got and then the various forms of sugar that come from that. So you mentioned coconut sugar. So a lot of people, and I used to be the same way until I started really diving into your stuff, that the coconut sugar, even the brown sugar and things of that nature were going to be healthier than the white table sugar because that was the demon that I had to avoid. So, can you
Yeah,
break
yeah.
down like the differences between these types of sugars and
Yeah.
what we're looking for?
Excuse me. Yeah, gosh. This is maybe one of the most controversial things because a lot of people, including myself, thought like coconut sugar, for instance, that's a huge one. I think that's the most acceptable when it comes to raw foodists as well. Like it's cooked, of course, so it's not raw, but that's something that they may consider as okay because, it's just coconut sugar and it's only just basically boiled but the problem comes in when you're browning something, okay? And what I mean by browning is like the Maillard reaction, which happens when, say, you're toasting bread or you're baking potatoes, you get that browning, which is kind of yummy, right? It gives it flavor, kind of caramelization. And see, this happens when you boil the sugarcane juice it's usually sugarcane juice when you boil it for hours. And these these countries that are producing the coconut sugar and like jaggery and I believe like mainly Rapadura, I think ones like that, in these big open pots basically and out of control boiling. It's, whatever temperature, it's as high as it goes. And they're creating this a lot of browning, a lot of melanoidins, it's called. So it's like the pigment basically that's on the toast, on the baked potato. And you're getting a lot of these oxidized polyphenols, plant materials, and things like that. So you're basically getting a lot of burnt plant matter as well. It's not all burnt, but you're getting that. You're getting some of that. So when you're having the white sugar, you're actually getting the removed, like the pure sucrose crystal. All of that is being removed, which is what you want because your body doesn't want to have to filter out that stuff, which I think you'll agree when you cook something for hours and hours, it doesn't usually make it better or healthier. And some people try to argue that melanoidins prebiotics and they're healthy, and just no one will ever convince me that cooking plant material for hours and hours and browning it actually makes it healthier than when it was raw. But
Right.
the beauty is see, this isn't the sucrose that we're having in stores in the Western world, the white sugar, that's not made in these countries where they're basically, it doesn't start with an open vat like that, like with an open boiling system. It's actually vacuum sealed, basically. It's controlled temperature, and the molasses is removed. So then you're just left with that pure crystal. So the processing goes like sugarcane juice or sugar beets. So they get the juice, they juice it, and then they clarify it. And see, this is something else we're getting into now, is the processing of the white sugar, that a lot of people are like, it's so highly processed, it's just full of chemicals, it's bleached. And yeah, the propaganda like that people have been sold is really sad, the marketing and stuff like that. So the clarification, they use lime slate, which has been used it's actually the most used processing aid in history, in humanity. Lime slate, the Mexicans used it in their tortillas, for thousands of years, and they eat it.
Hmm.
And the difference is with this, it's called calcium hydroxide. The difference is with this calcium hydroxide is nothing remains in the final product, in the sucrose crystals. There's nothing at all there. It's all removed during that first clarification process. So you got the calcium hydroxide, and it's basically removing impurities from around the sucrose crystal. And then they add in carbon dioxide, which we all know carbon dioxide, right? It's what we breathe out. It's what animals breathe out. It's basically a byproduct of life itself. It's not something really toxic. It's not some toxic chemical. So that is bubbled through the mix with the calcium hydroxide. And then that creates like basically calcium carbonate. So this is all food safe. It's not a scary thing, okay? And it's been done for many, many thousands of years. I don't pretend that that's always good if something's been done for thousands of years, but it has been proven to be food safe, and it's just has an origin in limestone, basically.
Right.
So you get the clarification process, and then during that process, all of that disappears. It dissipates. There's nothing remaining after that stage. And then after that stage, we have the boiling. Okay, so have the boiling of the sugar syrup, and then we have the crystallization, and then we have the spinning off. So the crystallization, there's nothing used at all. It's like boiling, okay, and then we have spinning off of the centrifuge, the molasses. So they separate the sucrose crystals are more dense than the molasses, and the molasses is what I was talking about, the melanoidins, that browning of the plant material that is spun off and separated from the sucrose crystals, and then it's dried. The sucrose crystals are dried, and then you have that pure sucrose crystal. So this isn't a big chemical processed, hyper processed procedure. And what matters is the end result as well. The end result is a pure crystal, 99.9%. It's not contaminated. It's not like the jaggery and the coconut sugar, all of them. Brown sugar is just white sugar with molasses added back to the white sugar. So it gives it that brown color. So they actually add it back. The sugar industry just found another product, right? The byproduct, they're like, hey, it's kind of like the dairy industry with whey powder, right? They found a way to sell the stuff that they would have really thrown away
Right.
originally. So you're not actually getting a better product when you're having these brown sugars at all. It's just very cooked.
It's fascinating. And I know I've certainly heard and been drawn to molasses for the concept of a higher mineral content, and I do
Yes.
find I have found benefit in using other mineral rich foods as far as giving my body proper building blocks. Like I've used things like Irish sea moss and other forms of seaweed for like a mineral rich punch. So just curious on the molasses specifically, do you find that to be an ineffective form of minerals?
Yes.
Okay,
Because it has been proven to be trace amount of minerals.
right.
So you're actually getting a very small amount for a start. But at the same time, you're also getting all the melanoidins and you're
Mm,
also getting all that browning material.
mm.
And there's much better ways to get much cleaner ways to get your minerals.
What?
Fruits, for instance,
Yes.
greens, I mean, they are perfect. And I've never had some mineral issue. And I haven't been taking any supplements. I haven't been having sea moss or anything like that. But I do have seaweed sometimes. Yeah, definitely. Uh, so I think it's negligible, like amounts of trace, like of minerals that you're getting with the molasses, but you're also getting like a quantity of the other stuff,
Right.
which I don't think is worth it.
Right. Yeah, that makes total sense. Yeah, thank you for that. And then as far as other forms of sugar in regards to honey and maple syrup, where would
Mm.
you, what's your view on those?
Yeah, well, maple syrup is browned as well.
Hmm.
Okay, I put that in the same kind of category as the jaggery, the coconut sugar. It's just basically a liquid form of these sugars. And I know some people are very attached to it, and I love maple sugar. I think it's amazing. The taste is just
Hmm.
really good. So, it's up to people. I don't think it's going to make them super unhealthy or anything like that. But when you see that browning, there is some from the plant sap, but it's inevitable when you're cooking these sugars that you're going to get this extra. And it does give it some flavor, right? Gives it a bit of a flavor, but I want the pure stuff. You know what I mean? I want this, like, I want to be able to add the flavors and the minerals and stuff like that cleanly rather than focus on getting it from these sugars that also have the extras. And honey, okay, honey, I mean, humans are like bees, right? We're making our own sugar. Like we're basically doing the same thing when we're processing sugar, like the bees are. We have our own way of processing the sugar and extracting the sugar, and they have their own way as well. They're getting it through the nectar, and they're putting their saliva in, and it's very similar. We are like bees. It's crazy. And the honey is, look, I mean, I don't recommend it because I'm vegan and I don't recommend exploiting bees. And people give them white sugar. They give them the sugar instead of them having their own honey. And I'm sure that's, it's not too bad, but at the same time, it is exploiting them and they do clip the queen wings and gassing them and stuff like that or smoking them out, whatever it is. Yeah, I don't recommend it. And it's not necessary when we're making our own honey essentially with the white sugar. We're making our own sugar. So it's the best way to do it, the purest way
And not
to
to
eat
mention,
it.
yeah, not to mention the cost point too is
Cost.
considerably different. Yeah. So with the white sugar, another argument that comes up is it's very glyphosate rich. There's toxins within that. So have you had any experience with glyphosate in sugar or hear anything about that or any thoughts on that?
No, no, no. It doesn't happen. That's not true. It's more like fear mongering and maybe some lazy research or something like that. And people do come with all sorts of things like, Barbara O'Neill kind of claims and stuff because she's quite popular. I'm not sure if you know who she is,
Mhm.
but she definitely makes a lot of baseless claims that haven't been backed by a lot of evidence, a lot of good evidence. And that's one of them for sure. That is not, yeah, I haven't actually heard that one. Glyphosate's in there. No, no, no. It's pure. It's 99.9% pure. This is a pure sucrose crystal. It's as pure as you can get it. There's not actually any contaminants left in the final product. It's amazing. And yeah, so there isn't any glyphosates.
Well, that's good to know, and I really do appreciate it from that sort of all levels, but certainly the cost effective scenario, because that's, as you mentioned at the beginning, that's one of the issues that people go through is like they either can't afford to feed themselves enough or just don't know how to. And so this sort of solves both of those issues because you're giving that super rich boost to whatever it is that you're consuming, to get the fuel that it needs without having to break the bank to do so. So
That's a
it's really
very good
important.
point. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. It is super cheap, right? White sugar is like crazy, crazy cheap. And that's why I just feel like so like I feel like I want to bring love back to the sugar because it has been so misrepresented and it's so underappreciated now. Like people can just buy it so cheaply and they don't even they don't think it's anything special when it is. It's very, very special that we can get it this cheap.
yeah,
And I'm not saying that you should replace meals with sugar. I'm saying to add it to your fruit meals, add it to your cooked carbohydrate meals, and it can help. It can help bring up the nutrition. And there are people who say, "Oh, but it's like just empty calories." It's like, hang on, this is like your number one fuel source. You cannot refer to it as empty calories. This is you take the sugar, you take the sucrose and the sugar out of fruit. Who wants to eat it, right?
yeah.
No one wants to eat it.
No.
Okay, if it's Aki or if it's like a dabai, like if it's like, a fatty fruit, they're a little bit different, okay?
Right.
There is a subsection for those ones, but the majority of fruit that we eat, the quantity is sweet fruit. And if we take out that crystal, see you later. No one's gonna want to eat fruit.
Yeah, I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed my watermelon smoothie today with a heaping amount of sugar in it. It was
Good.
absolutely
I love that.
delicious.
Oh, that is really good. Yeah, because you know how low sugar watermelon can be.
Hmm.
You know,
Yep.
it's just adding more nutrition. That's what people need to understand. It's not being bad. It's something that we have to do. It's a modern, this is part of like modern life really because we don't live in a tropical fruit forest all year round. Well, I kind of do, but where we have super high quality fruit available to us all the time. We just don't. So we have to like adapt.
Right.
And this is a good adaptation.
Yeah, and speaking of adapting, that one thing that you have really, you stood out for a lot of reasons, but one of your most powerful points is your transitional way and not focusing on this idealistic state that we have to be, eating just small amounts of fruit and basically breatharian, and we just jump straight to that
Mhm.
point. But we have to be conscious about where we are and be feeding ourselves, nourishing ourselves all along the way. So your program Raw Till 4 has been such a powerful step for me to I'm still engaging with that, and I know you still do as well, because it's such a gentle platform to sit on as we sort of allow our body to acclimate and move into that space. So I wondered if
Yes.
you could just briefly kind of touch on your motivation of getting behind that mindset, and maybe some other tips and tricks for transitioning to that you might have learned along the way based on mistakes you made or things you've learned from other people.
Yeah, well, I was raw. I was fruit-based, sweet fruit raw for almost 6 years. Almost 6 years. And don't get me wrong, it was amazing. It was amazing. And I was doing with Harley, as a lot of people know at the time. And, we were thriving together, but he was also having issues eating enough. And I didn't really have that much of an issue. I was really pounding it in, but he was doing, like long distance cycling and stuff like that. And he got super skinny. He was about 55 kilos at six
Hmm.
foot.
Wow.
And what I mean, this is what can happen. It's very, very easy to undereat on fruit, on a fruit-based diet, on an all raw, and just not meet your needs and just start failing to thrive, right? And not feeling great. So over the years, I think I felt like having that cooked meal at night gave a lot more freedom and enabled me to get a lot more calories in general because over time, yeah, it's just I don't want to say that a raw sweet fruit-based diet isn't optimal because that is your best. That is what we're meant to be eating, really. But in this modern world where the fruit quality isn't great, it's going to be hard for you to keep it up and be truly healthy eating that way. And having that cooked meal at night has just, for me, made it really achievable to stay fruit-based long term and not go to other ways of eating. Not that I ever would, because I've educated myself and I understand that we're frugivores. So in my mind, I'm like, it's if I would go to anything else. We are fruit-based animals. This is just how it is. And I've noticed like a lot of people have stayed long term now because of raw tofu, because they have that freedom and they don't feel this pressure to be like pure kind of thing. Because there is a bit of that pressure. There is like a subsection of like a community where people are like, oh, it must be, you can't blend your food, you just have to eat it whole. And this is just not really achievable for most people. And I want like the entire population to get on a fruit-based diet. Not just a little group of special people that can only do it who are super wealthy as well and can afford the best quality fruit and organic always and all of that stuff. So yeah, it's been a real game changer for me. And a lot of people in my VIP community, I have this VIP community where I teach people about fruit-based diet. We're doing a 12-month course at the moment. And shameless plug, I do have like 30% off for the next like 2 days off the course. And there's 4 months worth of material in the course. So people can come in and get a whole whack of like, ebooks, like free books, multiple videos from me, recipes, lots of sugar education, and yeah, that kind of thing. So they could check that out. But
That's
it's a
awesome.
real game changer for people in that group too, having that cooked meal.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can find all of Freely's links in the description. So if you're curious more about that offering and getting more involved with her, you can definitely find that there. And yeah, I appreciate that perspective because it does seem like there's a lot of shame and guilt thrown around within this community of like if you're not reaching this highest level, then you're failing kind of thing, which causes this swinging back and forth effect of people jump and I was one of them. I jumped into this far too quickly and lost a ton of weight, lost a ton of strength. My hair started to fall out. All sorts of things, were
Mm.
shifting far too much. And when I finally let go of that dogma that I have to stay 100% raw all the time, and I started reintroducing cooked foods, that's when my body kind of stabilized. And I agree with you
Mm.
completely that the fruit is the ideal, the optimum form of physical food, but we have to wait for our bodies to catch up to that and not try and look to somebody else to say, oh, well, this person's doing this, so I have to do it that way. But maybe
Mhm.
be conscious about where we are and enjoy the process all along the way, which
Exactly. Yeah.
you show so beautifully in a lot of your recipes and things that you demonstrate of like this can be a fun way of consuming things. You don't have to abandon your old desires to eating this kind of style or this kind of way. We can still enjoy this, but just shifting subtle things to where we're nourishing ourselves and not debilitating ourselves is it's a really beautiful gift.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that. And well said. Yes.
Thanks.
It's just it's so much better to be able to have that option at least. Have the option and not feel guilty and feel ashamed because you're fueling yourself sufficiently.
Yeah,
And the
absolutely.
same with the sugar, adding the sugar. You know what I mean? You don't have to, okay? No one has to do this. But having that option and knowing that it is a safe and effective option, I think is very important.
Yes, absolutely. So we touched on it a little bit with the combination of fats and sugar, but I want to emphasize this as well because a lot of times when we start playing with recipes or looking at other raw foodists or even any recipes whatsoever, a lot of the combinations go with the fats and sugars.
Hmm.
So I just
Yeah.
wanted to emphasize that's where it becomes a deadly combo. That's what really causes a lot of issues within us. So because I'm seeing a few comments in the chat about that. So just
Yeah.
be conscious. If you are going to eat fats, eat them by themselves and in moderation, very slight amounts. Don't be combining them with the sugars because that's where you're going to be really introducing a lot of problems within yourself.
Well, so there is the fact that people who don't have lipotoxicity, right, and who are slim and relatively healthy, like a lot of individuals are in the raw food movement as well, you can handle some. You can handle some fat sugar combos. You can clear it. It's not like you have to completely uh, cancel that out. So I want people to know that. But there is way too many people eating too much fat, and It's building up, right? It's building up for them, it's building up in their cells, and they're the people who have the biggest problem. Okay, so you can have some of the fat sugar combo. Don't be like completely like, oh no, I can't have it, it's going to make me diabetic or something. It's not. Okay. It really depends on your current fat on your body as well, the current fat on your body. Also, obviously, how much fat you're having. Like some raw food is having, 40% fat sometimes. And that can start to be a problem for sure, even if it's raw fat. So, yes, it is important to keep the fat low, 5% of daily calories, but sometimes you can go over. Sometimes you can have 20%, you can have sugar with it, and you'll be okay. It's what you do most of the time that matters with this.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for clarifying that. And yeah, maybe if you don't mind, could you just share generally what you typically, after having this length of experience and this time dedicated to this lifestyle, what does a typical day of eating look like for you, just generally?
I got my sugar water here. So I usually do some exercise and then I'll have a sugar water. Well, actually, I will have a little bit of the sugar water before I exercise. And the sugar water has about 4 tablespoons of white sugar, or at the moment, I have cane sugar as well. So we're getting through the end of that because I've only realized myself recently the impact of having the brown sugars, like the truth about the brown sugars. Okay, so this is 4 tablespoons of white sugar. I have white sugar as well, and lime or lemon squeezed, and some frozen mixed berries or frozen raspberries. And I just have that in a water. That would be a little bit before I exercise, and then have the rest when I come back. And then I'll have a big banana smoothie, at least 8 to 10 bananas, sometimes more than 10 bananas. And I'll have another 3 or 4 tablespoons of sugar. The reality is with bananas, it's, even we don't grow enough, and we grow a lot of bananas to have them all the time. So I can have my like 10 to 15 bananas a day. We still don't have enough. So we have to buy it. We sometimes have to buy it. And the quality is just very, very sad. It's very, very sad. And that's even organic. And that's what most people have access to. So I recommend adding the sugar to your banana smoothie, even though it seems like it's high in sugar. Then I'll have like berries, have frozen berries in that smoothie. So it'll be like sugar, frozen berries, sometimes some dates as well, and banana, and blend that up. Sometimes might have some greens as well from the garden. Not not that often. I don't really have a lot of greens. Not that I recommend that you don't, but I don't think it's nowhere near as important as increasing the sucrose in your diet. So that smoothie will keep me going for hours. And then oftentimes I'll have another smoothie, or I'll have it just depends. Like we have this fruit forest we're growing here, and more fruit is coming on every year, which is very exciting. So sometimes we can have like a monomeal, or we often have a monomeal of jackfruit. Jackfruit is amazing. Or
So good.
we might have we have a lot of rambutan at the moment. It depends on the season. But usually a mono meal for lunch, or another smoothie, a similar smoothie. And then for dinner, I don't usually snack. Sometimes I have a few olives in the afternoon, just a few olives, but it's not all the time. But dinner will be a high carb cooked plant-based dinner, like, rice. I don't have white rice that often, maybe once a week. Generally, potatoes or sweet potatoes. I try to look to fruits to cook first, like bananas too, like plantains. Cooking fruit is definitely better, or breadfruit. We have heaps of breadfruit here.
Mm.
So I make breadfruit pizza and all sorts of breadfruit recipes. So that would be a day for me. And it's usually around 2,400, 2,500 calories. And it
Mm.
has been that much for a very long time.
Good to know. Thank you for that. Yeah, and I want to be mindful of our time here. So just wanted to thank you again for being here and pass it over to you to see if you have anything that we didn't touch on today that you want to cover, and then where can people find and connect with you and all that
I
good
was
stuff.
thinking, what can we like finish up with? I had some little notes, but now it's kind of like, yeah, one thing people need to realize is they're being lied to about sugar. Okay, they've been lied to a lot about white sugar, and it's continuing on social media. It's crazy. It's basically out of control. So just remember that this is not the truth that you're getting via social media. If you actually deeply research the science as well, you'll find that a lot of the science is done with high fat diets. So, and they blame the sugar component. So, sugar is not getting a fair trial here. Sugar is being blamed for fat's crimes,
Mm.
basically. So, just remember that a lot of these studies and stuff that you see the results saying, oh, like sugar is so bad, it's going to cause diabetes, it's going to cause obesity and things like that. They're done on high fat diets. And Dr. Himsworth, back in 1930s, like nearly 100 years ago, actually coined the term insulin resistance and insulin sensitivity. He is the creator. He is the father of diabetes research, this dude. And he was a British professor, and he actually established that a high fat diet increases insulin resistance. A high fat diet and a high carb diet increases insulin sensitivity, which is what you want. So the high carb diet is actually doing good things for the body, but the high fat diet, like he proved, is causing insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes. So we've known for nearly 100 years what causes it. But of course, it doesn't, it doesn't, for people to be healthy and know the truth is not something that the powers that be, right, want that to happen. They don't want us to be super healthy and intelligent and having the truth. So they're keeping a lot from us. And that's the same with white sugar. And I think it's just, there's a lot of freedom in knowing that and knowing that yes, you can add white sugar to your diet. It's healthy and it's going to make you even healthier. Like benefits that I've experienced, my skin is way more hydrated. So I thought I was hydrated, but I just wasn't. I was not hydrated like I should have been. And a lot of people are experiencing this where their skin is plumping up
Mm.
and it's becoming just firmer and more hydrated, right? More hydrated. Because, like I said earlier, 60% increase, there's a 60% roughly increase in the hydration if you actually add sugar to the water rather than the water passing through your body and not actually hydrating you properly. So that's a huge thing.
Yeah.
I also noticed that I tan, like, and don't burn. This is something really crazy to me because I always thought it was the beta carotene in fruit because when I was on a raw fruit-based diet, my skin tanned, like all raw, my skin tanned much easier than when I have that cooked meal. But now, since adding, I'm having almost a cup of sugar per day, and that's about 800 calories. Yeah, about 800 calories. Um, I've noticed that my skin is like not burning and it's
Mm.
tanning like way more efficiently, which is just a very interesting side note, right? If people are wanting more tan skin, but it's obviously health giving. And uh, mental clarity is way, way better. Uh, I mean, I shouldn't say way, way better. It is quite a bit better. Okay. And my desire to move is better as well. Don't get me wrong, like I already felt good, but it's like kind of going next level, right?
Yeah. Those are great
Um,
points. Yeah,
yeah, if you,
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
sorry, you go.
Oh, I was just going to say, I've certainly noticed that same shift in me on day, because I still, there are days where I definitely go a little bit more than 10% on my fats. And, but I notice a difference that evening and then the next day of my energy levels than the days where I'm more focused on staying high carb the whole time. So, be gentle
Hmm.
with yourself as you play with these things, but just be sensitive to what your body's telling you and naturally will
Yes,
shift back to this way and experience all the benefits that come with it.
that's right. And I want people to know also that like this is what I'm doing, and I can't say exactly the results you're going to get if you do it or how much you should have, or, I'm not claiming to have all the answers, so people need to still tune in with their own body and how they feel and realize that if you are pre-diabetic or diabetic, it might take some time for your blood sugar to stabilize. if you're having, even if you're low fat and you're increasing the sugar, it still can take time. So just, be gradual about it and be mindful and keep an eye on your blood sugar, but it can take time for it to like stabilize. So I don't want people to be scared either and think, oh no, it's going super high and it's staying elevated and this isn't working. But because of that lipotoxicity, which most diabetics have, it'll take time for their body fat to reduce and the blood sugar to stabilize. And I'm happy to answer some questions
Okay.
if you do have
Yeah.
some. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, cool.
I have some time. Yeah.
So we had one concerning your skincare routine because
Oh,
you're
yeah.
you're glowing. So what do you do besides, just the internal boost and hydration? What do you do as far as skincare?
Yep. So don't wear makeup ever. This is, I mean, this won't work for a lot of women, I think, because the makeup thing is so pushed on females in the society. So, but that is definitely a secret, is not to clog your pores with makeup. I exercise. The sweating is a big one for your skin. The sugar has been really amazing. I don't have any particular skincare routine. I just splash my face with water. I just have a shower after I sweat and go and train. I just wash off the sweat. I sunbake. I love the sun. And I'm fair. I'm fair and white and all that. And people are like, oh, you're gonna look so old and you're sunbaking and it's so bad for you and everything like that. But it hasn't been, because of course the sun is not like trying to kill us and make us wrinkly old prunes. That's just, ridiculous. It's very nourishing. Obviously, don't burn yourself. What else? There isn't anything specific. It's just hydration, exercise, sunshine, fruit. Obviously, fruit is amazing, and no makeup.
Yeah. Sounds simple. I love it.
Simple.
Yeah.
Like men have that freedom not to wear makeup. So, we should too, and it's very beneficial.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I had another question about teeth sensitivity. Has this something that have you ever experienced by increasing sugar or dealing with clients or things of that nature when you increase the sugar? Because we had someone in the chat said, I started drinking sugar water this afternoon and my teeth seem really sensitive now.
Wow, that's interesting. That is the first time I've actually heard that. Honestly, that is the first time. And for me, I've never had any teeth sensitivity to do with sugar water or anything like that. I don't have that teeth sensitivity, even though I did a real number on my teeth growing up. And this is a whole other story. But when it comes to teeth in general, for instance, my partner doesn't have a single cavity, doesn't have a single filling or anything. He eats exactly the same as me. He has, gosh, he has a lot of sugar. He's maybe having like 1,500 calories of sugar a day. Okay, so there's that to consider. But when it comes to results, you know, these are real results of people in my group who have been incorporating the sugar. I'll just read out a couple of their comments. One individual says, I asked, what results are you getting, negative or positive? Just unlimited energy, and my manifestation skills have skyrocketed. That's one individual. More satiated, feeling blessed and free. Another individual, less hungry, more satisfied, skin hydration is improving, more energy, sugar feels like my new best friend. No one's saying anything about teeth. Not a single person has said anything. I'm not discounting what that individual said. Hey, just letting you know. I'm just saying this is my experience so far. Another individual, way better skin, better tanning, more energy, better digestion, and less hunger. So that is some feedback. And the teeth thing is a whole other topic. And I want people to understand that the pH in the mouth matters a lot. Okay. And think about this. So we've got amino acids and we have fatty acids and then we have carbohydrates. This is a big thing. This is important to understand. Those acids, they're acids. Okay. So when you're ingesting the fat, you're ingesting the protein, especially excess, which is very, very easy to do. You are risking your teeth health right there. And also the fat and sugar combo, you can actually coat your mouth with fat and you can keep the sugar in the mouth too long as well. But for me, I like to cross-check things with nature. And for me, it makes absolutely no sense at all for frugivores, for human frugivores who are designed to eat large quantities of fruit that contain large quantities of sucrose as well. It makes no sense at all for it to do any damage to our teeth. Okay? Like it just, and the world is full of people who are not like eating a fruit-based diet in these dentists, full of people who are eating very poorly. And actually, obese individuals have some of the worst teeth. I would say the worst teeth. And they're actually averaging low carb diets. A lot of these individuals are having a lot of artificial sweeteners instead of real sugar. And they're having high fat diets. So it's another one of these, like the fat, the acids. This is the problem. And they've even done studies on Coca-Cola Diet Coke versus the normal sugar Coke. And the Diet Coke actually created more cavities in people because I'm not sure exactly what the mechanism is here, but I do know that the phosphoric acid in cola and stuff like that is the source of the corrosion, the source of the teeth issues for people. It's not the sugar, it's the acid component. And sugar is not an acid, it is neutral on the pH scale. It's never been acidic. That's another lie.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, my take on that is it's likely similar to when people shift immediately to a fruit-based diet and then they start experiencing detox symptoms of a wide variety and then they blame the fruit as the cause of the problem. So sugar
Hmm.
might be and teeth does seem to be a specific like it varies from person to person. Like our compositions seem to vary and so somebody having sugar might be inspiring some sort of reaction in that way, but it's not the sugar as the problem. It's just unveiling a sort of a root cause that needs to be addressed. And as you mentioned, the pH of the mouth is the biggest contributing factor to teeth decay. So,
That's very important. And the
hmm
dry mouth, people, oh, there's so many factors,
yeah,
medications, and
yeah,
the microbiome in the mouth, and having dental, uh, like the fillings and everything in the mouth, having that. The white fillings actually have BPA in them.
mm,
So how's that going to affect your microbiome in your mouth? It's yeah, there's a lot to it.
right. Yeah, and please just let me know whenever you want to end. But I did
Yeah.
have another question in regards to agave. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, agave is very high in fructose. It's it's another one that it doesn't actually come from anything that we would eat. It's not like for me it doesn't seem to be the ideal because the ideal is a 50-50 split of glucose fructose and the agave doesn't have that, which I think is something to consider, but it's also very cooked and it has that browning as well. So people say it's raw agave and stuff like that, but it's been shown to be cooked quite a few times. Um, for me, I'm like, why though? Why? You have the white, and then you can influence the flavor whatever way you want. You can add different flavors if you want in some ways, depending on what you're choosing to add. I don't know, like cinnamon or things like that. I just think it's better to go to the pure. I don't think it's like super bad to have agave, but I guess I'm wondering why they would prefer to have it over the white. And I
I
think
know
it's to do with, yeah.
Yeah, Dr. Sebi would often promote agave as opposed to others.
Yeah,
So
because see, people think it's healthier, right? I
right.
think getting to the core issue of why someone would choose the agave over the white is important. And it's not really attainable for most people. It's quite expensive.
hmm
It can be quite expensive. And the white sugar is there, cheap as, just saying, hey, choose me.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Um, so Daryl Golden asked, can we make a human version of royal jelly? So Freely actually has a recipe for human honey that you can find
I
in her
do.
stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah.
It seems to be quite popular and it caused a lot of controversy. Hopefully it's not my internet, but it could be.
Yeah, I just broke up a little bit. I'm not sure if it was you or me, but it seems like we're back.
We're back. We're back.
Yeah. All right. And then another one was from Swinnower. Do you still use lime and baking soda for your hair?
Yeah, I do. I do. I went through a period where I was like, oh gosh, I don't know, maybe this can be bad because I was reading a few things but then and I gave it up and I basically went to this other shampoo Morocco method that I have actually promoted as well. But the result was just nowhere near as good. So I am still using it. It's yeah, it's still working well.
Oh, I think your mic might have just gotten disconnected.
Oh, hang on a second. Am I there?
I can hear you, but it sounds like we're using a different mic now.
Oh no. Oh gosh, I don't know. I'm not good at this stuff. Are we?
I mean, I
Is
can
it?
hear you, but it's
Oh,
like much quieter and it's definitely a different quality.
oh, oh, here we go.
If it disconnected, yeah, just try
I think we're
selecting.
back.
Yeah, we're back.
Yeah, we're
We're back.
back.
We're
This
back.
technical stuff I'm not too good with.
So I had a question in regards to concerns if sugars, there's rumor that sugars are mixed with bone char in countries like Mexico.
Yes.
Is this something that
Thank
you've
you for
heard of?
bringing that up.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for bringing that up because I should have addressed that during the processing. So beet sugar, the the juice coming from beets, that one is the sugar coming from beets is actually never used. Bone char is never used in the processing of that sugar. Okay, so that's fine, and that's the majority of sugar, white sugar that's available in
Mm.
the USA, for instance. In Australia, we never ever use bone char for the processing of sugarcane, but in America, it is done, but it's being phased out. Okay, but it is there, right? It is some companies are still using that process, but I have actually written about it in many comments, even in my latest reel. If you look in the comment section, I've explained, what companies that you can choose, and also organic never uses bone char. So it's a weird thing. It's a weird thing. It's just a filtration device. Okay. It's unfortunate, but you need to understand that there's nothing left in the final sucrose crystal. Okay, that was a first phase, and that was completely removed from the sugar. Okay, so you're not eating bone. So it is still plant-based, right? You're still having a plant-based product here, but it depends on your ethics and how far you want to take it, right? If you're eating out at restaurants and they're using it as a sweetener, you're not going to know. Basically, you do the best you can, and thankfully they're phasing it out. And organic beet sugar never uses it, so there are lots of options still. And just know that the final product is pure. Okay, even though it has, I mean, like, people are worried about the processing thing, but they have to realize, like, things like tofu and plant-based milks and nut butters and all sorts of things are processed as well. And a lot of these products end up having residual, like, stuff from the processing. But white sugar is pure. It's really, really pure, and it has to be for like hospital uses in particular. They have to make it really pure. So yeah, that's that.
Yeah, thanks for that. That's fascinating. Very good to know. Um, Sarah asked if you do you have any clients going through menopause, hot flashes, etc. And what are your thoughts on that topic?
No, I'm glad you asked that because I do have a few clients well, members of my VIP community.
Mhm.
And I did have a screenshot of one of them saying that she used to have hot flashes and she doesn't have them anymore. And one individual wrote below, "Oh, that's good to hear. I'm having multiple," like a new member said, "I'm having multiple hot flashes." And then another individual wrote under that, "I don't have any anymore either since adopting Rortal 4." So yes, I think the sugar will help with that as well. I mean, I'm probably perimenopausal, which is before the pause, before the menopause, and that's meant to have a whole lot of symptoms and stuff like that. So I'm meant to be going through a lot right now. You're seeing I'm 45, but I'm not having hot flashes or anything like that. So yeah, try it. Try the fruit-based diet if you're not already, and adding the sugar can be really beneficial. Just listen to your body and add as much as it feels is right for you.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for that. And you mentioned at the beginning that you kind of dabbled in fasting way back. And I know
Mm.
this is a big topic, but sort of just generally, what's your perspective on fasting nowadays?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, fasting is a big topic too. Yeah. The way I see it is, we're designed to eat. We're designed to eat. We have all the digestive system, we have the anus and everything like that. It's all involved in eating. And we're meant to have food coming in. And we have a basal metabolic rate. We have an amount of calories that it requires to keep the furnace going, to keep the metabolism going and the body functioning, right, at its best. Even when you're lying down and you're not doing anything, you have a certain amount of calories that are required to keep all the organs going. And when you're fasting, like where is those calories going to come from? You got to think about that. It, comes from your tissue. Okay, it comes from your own tissue, and it's not a good way to lose fat. That is for sure. Running on ketones is, yeah, we talked about that a bit. It's quite toxic for the brain, and it's not healthy. It's an emergency state. We don't want you to be in that state, and we don't want you to be using your muscle tissue. It's like, it's like burning your furniture to keep yourself warm, right? It's sure you can do it. It's not sustainable. It's not a sustainable thing. And I know a lot of people are into fasting, and I guess I want to ask them why. Why do you want to fast? What is the reason that you want to restrict the food coming in? And a lot of people think they have to be like it's going to make them cleaner, it's going to make them purer and cleaner and they're going to get a fresh start, that sort of thing. But I actually think it does the opposite. It really sets you back. And what I recommend in replacement of that is mono fruit island, because in order to be cleaning out the system, you need fiber coming in. You do need the fiber because it helps with the peristalsis. So you need that bulking down in the intestinal tract in order to actually remove toxic matter. And I've known individuals to do fast for 30 days and to have like they've drunk some water or something, or they've got to the, last couple of days of their fast and they've actually had a bowel movement like that has been in there for like 30 days. They've had that in there the whole time. So that's not actually really cleansing for you. You it's meant to keep going. The digestive system is meant to keep going. It helps you actually clean the body, we can say that, by having that fiber in there. It's very important. And also your microbiome. A lot of microbiome is dependent on having fiber in the diet and having sucrose even in the diet. It's important to have these coming in, or you will have the death of a lot of your good microbiome. That's something to, it's food. The fiber is food for the microbiome and for your immune system. So I say don't do it. Don't do it. And instead do smoothies, right? Just banana smoothies. I had fantastic results doing only bananas for 30 days. I've done many mono fruit islands, and you can continue living your normal life, right? It's not a stress on the body. Fasting is a stress, regardless of what people say. I know people are very into it and it's been done for thousands of years and all of that, but it's not something that the brain and the body wants you to do. If you have an appetite for food, then you need food. But if you don't have an appetite and you really don't want to eat, that's a different story because that's the brain saying, hang on, like, we need time off eating that because you don't have any appetite. But most of the time people do have appetites and it's the ego that is in control here and saying, no, don't eat. And that's not good.
Yeah, thanks for that perspective. It's certainly a topic that I'm continuing to explore, but I think with anything it's important to yeah, do things in moderation and not be too extreme in any which way. And again, Freely's living proof of going this way for quite a length of time. And so it's a great testimony to consider for sure. So thank you for that. And yeah, I think that's actually the end of the questions that I'm seeing here. So yeah, again, was there anything else that came up in this last conversation that you wanted to touch base on
No,
or go into anything further? Or are you feeling complete?
yeah, no, it's been great. And I think I just want to leave. with people just understanding that they have been lied to about sugar. It's not the devil, and to just explore it a little bit deeper and explore what I'm saying, research what I'm saying as well, and look into it a bit deeper if you can. And I guess experiment and just keep that fat low, right? Keep the fat low, keep the caffeine out. See, people are comfortable loading up on the coffee, starting the day with coffee. But when you say, hey, have a sugar water, they're like, oh my God, that's terrible. That's like shocking. But the coffee is a drug, right? The sugar is a nutrient. It is not a drug. That's another thing. People are like, oh, it's a drug. It's addictive. It's a nutrient. And you can be addicted to it like you can be addicted to oxygen,
Mhm.
basically. It's essential for life,
Right.
like oxygen is. The caffeine obviously is not. It's a drug. It's a pure drug. So, yeah. Don't get me started. I'm ranting again now.
That's a great point. Well, I really appreciate your time, Freely. It's been such an honor to get to speak with you in this way and for you to get to share your gnosis with this community. And I just want to say that you're welcome to come back anytime. We really appreciate you having
Thank you
here.
so much for having me too and for reaching out. I
Of
appreciate
course.
that. It's
Yeah,
been really nice to connect with you.
absolutely.
You have a very soft, like calm voice.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
very calming, isn't it? I'm sure your audience would agree. It's a
Yeah, well,
soothing voice.
I I appreciate that. And yeah, we talk about all sorts of things as we're figuring out this experience that we found ourselves in and how to get back to the simplicity of who we truly are, which is, as I like to say, we're angels that we forgot how to fly. So we're just remembering that, and you are certainly an embodiment of remembering, and you do such a
Oh,
beautiful job at teaching. So I appreciate your gifts and thank you for spending time with us today.
thank you so much. Thank you.
You're
Gosh.
welcome. All right. Well, make sure to check out Freelee's work. You can find all her links in the description. And yeah, looking forward to continuing this connection and take care, sister.
All right,
Take
you
care,
too.
everybody.
Thank you. Thanks so
You're,
much for having me.
yeah, of course. Bye,
Bye.
everybody.